This is Saul Canelo Alvarez.
Danger.
This is Terence Bud Crawford. Canelo versus Crawford. A true super...
The showdown between Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez was nothing short of epic. Revisit the top highlights from Fight Week and hear what the experts had to say in their predictions.
Hagler and Leonard and Duran and Tommy Hearns and those kind of fighters, and by the way, Sanchez and Gomez and the great fights from years ago. This is one of those, and you're all a part of it.
They say the fight began long before the morning bell rang, back when the city was still half asleep, and two men, miles apart, chose to push their bodies through the quiet, relentless grind that forges legends. Throughout that camp, Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez were fully immersed in those rituals, each surrounded by a team that functioned like its own universe. Crawford's preparation looked like a masterclass in focused transformation. As he moved up to super middleweight to face Canelo, he rebuilt his body with intention, adding size not just for strength, but to maintain the slick speed and sharp precision that had kept his record flawless. His team fine-tuned every detail, from strength training to nutrition, ensuring the added weight translated into power, not compromise. Sparring sessions were against larger opponents, and his conditioning was tailored to preserve the fluid movement that let him strike with precision and vanish before counters could land. On the other side, Canelo's camp was a study in measured intensity. He put in the expected work: pad sessions, mitts, countless rounds on the heavy bag, but layered it with unconventional drills that reflected a career built on sharp instincts and experience earned the hard way. Canelo kicked a soccer ball to sharpen his footwork and vision, blending technical drills with flashes that reminded everyone he was still an elite athlete at 168 pounds. Both camps dropped teasers, and the story began to write itself. The precise, compact ring technician versus the seasoned, championship-caliber powerhouse. But beyond the footage and the fanfare, the daily grind looked strikingly similar for both fighters. The simple narrative got messy. Size, legacy, and style blurred the lines. Canelo carried the weight, the championship pedigree, and the calm of a man who had faced every kind of storm. Crawford brought a perfect record, unmatched ring IQ, and the hunger to chase a dangerous, legacy-defining win. When fight night came, it wasn't the promos or the weigh-ins that would matter. It was whose preparation could turn into presence. The split-second reads: the gas tank in the late rounds, the willingness to give and take under pressure. For all the build-up, that's where fights are truly won. Meanwhile, boxing legend Roy Jones Jr. didn't hesitate to share his bold take ahead of the Crawford versus Canelo showdown. While much of the pre-fight talk centered on the weight difference, with Crawford moving up significantly, Jones was confident it wouldn't be a major factor. Terence has been bulking up to the weight just like I did as a heavyweight, Jones explained. If he can handle super middleweights and light heavyweights in camp, he can deal with them in the ring. The weight shouldn't even be an issue. In an interview with The Ring, Jones said that if he had to put money on the line, his pick would be Crawford. The reason? Versatility. If Canelo fights the perfect fight, he's got a real shot, Jones admitted. But Crawford has 6 different ways he can win. My money would go with the guy who has 6 paths to victory, not the one with just one. Jones didn't stop there. Appearing on All the Smoke, the former 4-division world champion questioned whether Canelo still had the hunger to compete at the highest level. While he didn't go into detail, he contrasted that uncertainty with Crawford's relentless drive to achieve more in the sport. That hunger would be crucial. For the first time in his career, Crawford was stepping into a fight where he couldn't impose his will at will. Moving up in weight, dealing with ring rust, and facing a seasoned opponent like Canelo presented real obstacles. Some began to wonder whether Crawford had already reached his physical peak, and if his most dominant days were behind him. Canelo, on the other hand, was coming off a flat, unanimous decision win over William Skull, a bout that broke CompuBox records for all the wrong reasons, mostly due to low offensive output. While much of the blame went to Skull for refusing to engage, Canelo's inability to cut off the ring or press the action raised questions about his form and motivation in the twilight of his career. Of course, such doubts have followed great fighters before major bouts for generations, often dismissed in hindsight as noise. But history has shown that the truly great ones weather those storms and rise again. Former opponent Jeff Horn also weighed in on the mega fight. Crawford famously stopped Horn in the 9th round back in 2018 to win his first world title at welterweight. Horn predicted Canelo might try to overwhelm Crawford early with pressure and power, but he could also envision Crawford weathering that initial storm and gradually taking control. It's either going to be an early stoppage for Canelo, Horn told Fight Hub TV, or Crawford outsmarts him, tires him out, and finishes strong, just like he did against me. Horn praised Crawford's accuracy and timing, suggesting that if he could survive Canelo's early aggression, the fight could swing in his favor. He's got super accurate shots. If he weathers that early storm and finds the openings, he could definitely stop Canelo late. It's possible. Meanwhile, Andre Ward, former undefeated champion and one of boxing's most respected minds, was tapped to provide analysis for Netflix's coverage of the fight. Ward had broken down the matchup before, noting one of Canelo's most underrated strengths, his ring presence. Even when he's resting, he's walking forward like he's in control, Ward said on Instagram. That gets in a fighter's head. They feel like they can't breathe. Ward also analyzed both men's styles, calling them puncher boxers rather than boxer punchers. They can both box, but that's not what they really want to do. They want to hurt you. When they move, it's just to regroup or reposition to inflict damage. But as fight night approached, Ward made his stance clear during an August 29th Fight Hype interview. "I'm going with Terence Crawford," he said. "Big weight jump. Dangerous fight. But someone has to show me they can break Crawford's will and figure him out in the ring. No disrespect to Canelo, but I'm not betting against Crawford right now. You've got to prove you can beat him." Not everyone agreed. Ryan Garcia, speaking on the August 29th episode of Cigar Talk, predicted that Crawford would have some success, landing plenty of clean shots, but doubted those punches would hurt Canelo. "Bud will land, but I don't think he'll do much damage," Garcia said, implying that Canelo's size and durability could neutralize Crawford's sharp offense. As opinions stacked up and narratives clashed, one thing became clear. This wasn't just a clash of champions, it was a collision of legacies.
Like getting a lot of punches off, being able to tag Canelo with single shots, but they have no effect. That's the thing.
He has the best chin that I've ever seen.
And nothing moves his head.
In his final prediction, Garcia acknowledged Crawford as a great fighter, one of the very best, but suggested he might be taking on more than he could handle by stepping up against Canelo.
One of the best. I just think that he's biting a little bit more than he could chew. But you never know. If anybody can do it, it could be Crawford. You know, I do see him like when he fights. I'm like, damn, how do you beat this guy? You know, he could do it all. He could box. He could bang.
Garcia, who initially backed Canelo to win, now seems to be rethinking his position, or at least acknowledging that Canelo is up against a far tougher test than he first believed. "My issue with Canelo is his intensity," Garcia said in a clip shared by DeOne Boxing. "He doesn't have the same fire he used to, and I think that's going to be his biggest problem," he added. "Can he still counterpunch? Yes. Can he still be slick? Absolutely. But does he still have the energy and intensity he showed when he was younger, or even when he fought Caleb Plant? Honestly, I'm not sure. The question is whether he still has that second and third gear." Garcia pointed to Canelo's fight with Dimitri Bivol as an example. When Bivol gave him just a few extra movements and punches, Canelo started making odd defensive moves and found himself out of position. That's the concern. And with that, the analysis wraps up. If you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss future videos. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you in the next one.